Okay, let's look at this video here. Let's look at this problem here. Select from a list of possible functions that could be represented by this function. Okay, so what you need to realize is every time you have this sort of effect where it hits but it doesn't cross, that means you have a squared effect, or this part of the function is going to be even. Okay, so when even, what I mean by that is it has to be some quantity squared. Okay, if it crosses like here, then it needs to be odd. Okay, so it has some quantity that's odd, whether it be 1 or 3, etc. Okay, so what we're going to do here, erase all this, what we're going to do here is we're going to see, we're going to see exactly what happens here. So I'm looking kind of here, and it looks like this guy crosses like -4. So this answer choice is false because this is 1. This is a possibility. This is not a possibility because this is 3, and this is a possibility. Okay, let's look at the next one. The next one, it looks like it's crossing at -1, so at +1. That would be this value here, because remember it's the opposite, so +1 would actually be minus, I'm sorry, I take that back. It would actually have to be this one, because it would have to be +1. So this one's -1, which would indicate it's crossing there, but it's not. So B is wrong. So the answer should be D, but let's keep working on this. If we look over on the last one, it crosses at 3, okay, and this should be a -3, which is right here. Note it also crosses, so the exponent should be odd, which it is. And so the last question is well, how do we determine this negative value here? Well, that negative value comes from the end behavior, and end behavior is actually really easy to decide. All we have to do, let me erase this so I can see. All we have to do is ask ourselves, what happens when I plug in a very negative number for x, a very large negative number for x, and a very large positive number for x? Well, look what happens here. This guy here is going to stay positive, because anytime you square a negative, it becomes a positive. This guy here is going to take on whatever value it is. So if I plug in -100 here, right, -100 plus 1 is going to be like basically a negative number. So we have a positive here. Actually, the leading value here is negative, so we have a negative times a positive. This value is going to be negative, and this last value will also become negative, because again, I'm plugging -100 here, or whatever, -1,000,000, -1,000,000,000, whatever. It's going to come out negative for very big, large values. Okay, let's put it all together. So what's a negative times a negative? Well, a negative times a negative is a positive. Positive times a positive, I'm going to put all this together now, is going to be a positive, but then I also have the negative value. So negative times a positive, that's hard to see. Negative times a positive is going to yield a negative. So that makes sense. So it's what this is giving me is the y value. So the y value down here has to be negative, which makes sense because this guy is shooting down. Okay, we play the same game with the positive value. So let's do that. Let me choose the color. Let me do something like purple. Okay, so we're plugging in here. So the first value is negative because it's -1/12. Okay, we're plugging in a very big, a very big positive number. Okay, so well, it's squared, so it has to come out as positive. Okay, a very big positive number plus 1 is going to be a positive value. A really big positive number -3 is going to be a positive value. And look here, all of these are positive times a negative is going to yield a negative, which makes sense because this thing shoots down to the negative. So again, D is the only answer choice that makes sense, and there's my answer. Alright, hopefully that made sense.